Welcome back to another episode of the Rundown. Myself, Joe, Brandon is also in this Zoom meeting. Man, we got a good episode for you. Stuff's kind of ramping up in the CSAA, probably 1 or 2 more weeks until we're going to be closing this bad boy out. And we got a lot of stuff to talk about also with Tiger Baseball and stuff like that. And to give you some updates on what you can expect for the rundown in the very near future, which is pretty big time. But I think we'll get right into this whole shebang. You want to, Brandon? What do you think?
Can we wait like 5 more minutes,
So yeah,
maybe?
we'll
I
just
don't.
sit in silence here for probably another 10, and then we'll just make sure we're nice and ready to go. But let's get right into it. CSAA, we'll start with baseball. Brandon and I, earlier this week, were able to make it for the Big Rapids Reed City game, as well as for the softball games too. But we'll obviously talk about that in just a second. But looks like Big Rapids just going to roll with it because they played real solid both games. Bats were a little bit slower in the first game for Big Rapids, but they were able to win. And then second game, they just had a massive, what was it, second inning or first inning, where they put up 5 on the board, back-to-back triples, and then also just the bats just kept on going for that whole game. And Big Rapids was able to take that one. But Brandon, you stayed for the whole game. I was only there for maybe 3 or 4 innings. You want to just kind of chat it up, tell the people what they missed out on that game.
A lot of rain. No, it was really
Yeah,
not great weather for those games. Joe knows as much as I did. My coat is still not dry from that game, but certainly when you looked at Big Rapids, game one, exactly what we had expected. We wanted a pitcher's duel, and boy, we got a good one. Check and Hammond were both on fire. Ty gets the win over Max at the end of the day. 3 runs from his offense. Reed City held to a goose egg from Check. But I mean, 23 strikeouts combined between these two guys on the mound. I mean, that's absolutely spectacular. Both these guys, top of the CSAA in terms of arms on the hill, especially. We can throw Emmett Lingaman also in that conversation. There's a lot of great ones, but those two certainly have been standouts, and they show why in that game. But really, especially, I think the 6 walks really hurt Max at the end of the day because I think a lot of the Big Rapids hitters really, they weren't really barreling a lot of balls, and it was on the same on the other side. Reed City really was not touching Ty for a majority of the game. Now, I think they were held to only, 2 or 3 hits in game number one. But I think especially being able to be disciplined on the base pads, capitalize on mistakes. Big Rapids was able to get those 3 runs in game one. And then the offense exploded in game two there against Summers. I mean, right off the shoot, 8 runs in that first inning. They were out to make it a short game. They end up winning it. Mercy ruled through 5. They win, I believe the final score 16-3 in that ball game. And we saw some really good piece of hitting, some just to highlight. We saw Caden Schuberg double, I believe 2 singles and a double from Nick Decino, 3 triples from Caden Schuberg. Both those guys had 4 RBIs apiece, absolutely going to work. Cole Heiss certainly battled through some command issues in game two, but he still got the job done, got the win for the Cardinals, and they gave up 3 runs. But I think especially Big Rapids right now, they're on the driver's seat. Reed City's right behind, but there's also another team that we'll talk about here in a minute, Joe, that's a little bit on a heater, and they might not be overlooked, or they might have been a little overlooked, but now they might be looking in here at a second place spot with a winning streak.
yeah, they're back in it. We'll just hop right into that game, or especially that team that we're talking about. It's Newaygo. They haven't lost since what, the 3rd of this month, since it was Coopersville. And the crazy thing about it is one of the last CSA teams that they're playing is Big Rapids. It's the last game of their regular season for them. So there's a chance for a little bit of shakeup. I think Big Rapids has it locked in now with their performance for just the regular season champions. But Newaygo still has a chance to, lock in that coveted second spot that, Reed City and Newaygo, and I think even Central Macomb is battling for it right now. So there's a chance, but Newaygo kind of going crazy. Do you got any more stats or anything like that for Newaygo that would suit anybody's fancy, Brandon?
I do. And by the way, we have stats. This is
We have
amazing. We have
it is
stats.
huge.
We have been working.
Expect some big time analysts here because we finally got some good stats for you guys.
We do. I kid you not. It has taken us about a month, 2 months to get all the numbers for you. We had basketball ones because obviously me and Joe were covering it in depth as we are going to these games and getting them ourselves. But now we're not able to with the games being moved and obviously not being able to keep up with every team. But now we have the ability to do so, which is great. But I mean, especially Newaygo tight games against your squad, Tri-County, Joe. Low scoring games. They got the job done in both. But as we mentioned, they have not lost since that Coopersville doubleheader over there at the home of the Broncos earlier on in the month. That was back on May 1st. They haven't lost since. They beat Belding, Comstock Park, White Cloud, and Tri-County. And now they're going to have a tough test actually today as we're recording this on Friday against the Ravenna Bulldogs, a very reputable team. So we'll see them do battle. Both teams in double-digit wins on the campaign. So we'll see that. But Russell Toth, he was really great on the mound in that second game for Tri-County. He gave up 8 runs, but not 8 runs, 8 hits, but only gave up 3 runs. So there was a lot of people on the base paths, but he was able to get out of the jam, show some good composure. And I think Tri-County, they've had some good players this year as well. Over the box score, they just haven't been able to really keep that consistency up all season long. But you've seen guys, especially Plotz has been a good player for them. He's had some really good impact at the top of that lineup. But I think for Newaygo especially, I mean, they're pretty much riding the momentum that we're looking for this group. And it's really been with the hitting. I mean, they got 3 guys batting over 350 this year. That's outstanding for the high school level.
That ain't half bad.
Roth all above. And Roth also, by the way, is at 468 in his 108 plate appearances. He's been an absolute dog for that team this year so far. But I think really Newaygo, you got to give them credit because the Coach Long has got that group really, really working, and they're starting to put together a little bit of a winning streak. And right now, that's really good momentum, especially if they can keep that going in a series coming up against the Cards at the top of the table. Only a short turnaround next Tuesday.
Yeah, I think I was doing a quick little check of everything with Newaygo, Reed City, and Central Montcalm to kind of see where that little race was going to be for second place. Newaygo sitting right now with the stats that are in place, 18-9 on the season. Central Montcalm 16-10, and then Reed City is 13-8. So kind of a chance here where you might see a 3-way tie at the end of it. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 or 4 more series apiece, kind of depending on if weather's going to be able to cooperate and stuff like that. But we still got a pretty strong chance for a close race at second place. And that's one thing we're going to be watching out for pretty closely for you if you ever so want. So really going to look forward to that. I think, too, you're going to see some good teams kind of at the lower part of the CSAA, maybe make a little bit of a run in the playoffs. I think not Central Montcalm, Chip Hills is a team who, talking to Coach JT Scarpelli, they were a team that kind of starting to pick it up recently with their abilities, which is going to be big time to see. And then obviously with Howard City seeing some pretty good success on the mound there for this past series. Never can count them out. So that's probably it for baseball. You got anything else, Brandon?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Chip Hills, Joe, because that's another team that's we haven't really talked about. But I mean, they're a 15-win club. I mean, they're playing some really good baseball right now, and especially for that area, for that community right now, that team has really been the heartbeat, and they're starting to really win some games, provide some big time wins, and just a lot of positive vibes there for Remus. And I think it's really been looking at some of the stats over before the show and pulling them up now. I mean, you got some really good guys, really good athletes that have done a good job on the mound. Tyler Gear, Hunter Sellers, both really good athletes, both on the football field and on the baseball diamond. They've really stepped up and they've really thrown well for this team. They've had some really good on-base percentage guys. They're able to get on base, get some extra base hits and drive them in. And even though they're not necessarily one of the top scoring teams, I mean, you look back at the last couple of games that they've played here, and they've only gotten into double-digit runs once, only above 7 or 6 or 7 twice outside of that Hesperia game when they scored 13. So they like to play those really small run games over recently, and it's been working. And because, I mean, right now they're run 6 out of the last 8, and they've done it basically with those low run tallies. And that's something that a team really needs going into the postseason because it's going to be tight. Every team's going to play their best. They're going to throw their best arm. So if you can win those tight games, that's really what's going to propel you going into district play, moving you across the bracket, and you're going to give your team the best shot going into the month of May and June.
Yeah, it's huge. They're also in the second place race with a 15-6 record. So going to be a close one in these next few weeks, and that's what we're really looking forward to. We'll hop now into softball. We were also at the Reed City Big Rapids game. That was the one that a lot of people were looking at, which was going to be kind of the decider for who's going to take the regular season conference championship. Looks like Big Rapids has it locked up. They played well against them. I know they won the first game. Was it not? If my memory serves me correct, was it 9-0 in the first game?
You're
And
correct.
then
1-0.
I didn't get a look at the second game as I was on my way out. I had some stuff to get to, but I was looking over, and especially with the senior day activities for Big Rapids, it was a little bit longer of an event, but still, Big Rapids able to get both of those. I mean, it kind of just showed that Big Rapids was in control from the start. But Reed City too, you gotta give them credit. They played pretty well, even though the score might not reflect it at the end of the day.
Right. And I think the hardest thing for a lot of fans to look at, because the game ended 10-8, game two. Reed City was winning that game going into the bottom of the sixth, throwing air, 3 runs across, put the momentum back in McGrapp's favor. So Reed City was going to win that game. They were going to get a split outside that one throwing error, which obviously that's not the only reason they lost the game. I mean, both sides can count as many mistakes in that second game because both offenses were great and fielding sometimes let those bats keep rolling on both sides. So, I mean, especially you look at what that game presented, and it really was presenting exactly what we were talking about, Joe, going into this series of 2 games was where you're going to see probably in this case, if Big Rapids wanted to play that lower scoring game, because I mean, you look at the box score in that game one, they were just kind of chipping away early on. They got a little bit of an early lead, kept it lower scoring, and then blew it open 3-run homer from Marissa Warren at the end of the game that led it to 9-0. But in that second game, it was more of an offensive slugfest, and that played into Reed City's favor, and they were winning that game. And so you got to give Coach Steve credit. You got to give Coach Thompson credit. Both of those teams very, very good. You could tell the strategy was in play. Intentional walks were in play against Morgan Hammond, against Marissa Warren, against Kayla New. You had good hitters getting walked with runners on base because of that respect for the hitters at the plate. It was a fantastic game nonetheless. I mean, you saw some good pitching as well. Kaylin Noop, Isabel Guy, both throwing 2 games each for both teams. And they really had some good performances. Obviously, Big Rapids was able to get on Isabel Guy a little bit more there, especially in that first game. But she battled back and was resilient as well. But right now, Big Rapids really kind of in control the rest of the way. Not necessarily saying they go into cruise control, but if they keep playing the way they have, they're going to take care of business and win the crown. But Reed City is also a team that we should be very much looking at as a district champion contender, and
Yeah,
even
no
maybe
doubt.
beyond that for how well when they get going offensively. They're one of the hardest teams to stop, and that second game was big time evidence of it.
Yeah, absolutely. These are going to be teams that you got to be watching out for, and we're really looking forward to bringing that type of coverage for the district play that comes around. And honestly, it can't come soon enough. We still got like a week and a half or 2 weeks left of this regular season, and then we're going to be seeing big time plays from everybody. But once again, looking forward to seeing how Big Rapids can do. They're going to be a team that probably makes it farther than the districts. I would think Reed City is going to be the same too with how well that they're playing, because that matchup was kind of a precursor to what people can expect to see for maybe opening rounds of regional play. That's how good these two teams are, where that's valuable too for them because they get to see the type of caliber of teams, what it's going to have to take to get even farther in the postseason. District play, we know everybody makes it there. You might get some cakewalks and stuff like that, but if you're looking forward to the end of the season and the ones where you really got to grit out, that second game, especially of Big Rapids and Reed City, is what you're going to be seeing with these next few weeks, probably in about a month or so when regional play starts up. So very much looking forward to that. There's not much more else to say, I think, with softball-wise, unless you got anything else, Brandon.
I'd say one team to watch out for down the stretch is going to be Central Montcalm. Actually, they're a team that's right now hovering about 500. I just checked my notes to see where they were at record-wise. They're only sitting at 14-12 right now, so they're kind of in the mix a little bit. But they're a team that really going down the stretch. I'm looking at the schedule. They've played a tough series against Sacred Heart, one of the best teams in the area. They're going to be playing against Kent City again, Grayling on tomorrow's tournament. And then they're going to be playing Moistan with Chip Hills. And then they'll have a game that's scheduled against Catholic Central that I believe is the second half of a doubleheader that was potentially postponed this year earlier on. Maybe it's just a single game series. I'm not totally sure. Won't want to assume. But they're going to be a team that if they can really get going here in the second half of the season, could be because they got a lot of talent. I mean, Gabby Johnson on the mound at the plate. She's a really good player for them. You see a lot of great hitting throughout that lineup. They're pretty deep. As far not necessarily full in-depth deep as far as players, but they have a pretty deep lineup that can get on base. And so that might be a team to watch as well. I'll be curious to see how they finish out. And especially with the rest of these teams, I mean, we're kind of starting to see the stars align on where these teams might fall record-wise. But Joe, you and I, we've played this game before. We know exactly going into postseason play. That record means absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all. And that's the best part about it. especially when district play comes around, it's anybody's game. It's like a brand new season. It's win and advance, but still you got to make sure that even if you are thinking it's going to be a chalk game, you still got to bring your stuff because if not, then this game can bite you, and it's not forgiving either. So that's the best part. But CSAA is kind of ramping down just a little bit, but look forward to it because there's some pretty big games still about to happen for a lot of the teams across the slate. We'll hop now, professional side, Detroit Tigers. What else can we say other than, they're not great. Like there's just some, it seems like kind of when one part of the game is looking good, another part of the game kind of falls down. The pitching still has been pretty consistent. Bats are still falling apart a little bit. Spencer Torkelson got his 2 home runs. So he finally got on the board for those, and one was an absolute moonshot. That was a great job to make us basically get back into the game and was the winning walk-off home run pretty much in the bottom of the 8th. But other than that, I mean, Tigers just got to start playing a little bit better. I don't know what has to happen because, I'm not in that kind of GM type spot. I'm not in the office, talking with everybody. But it seems as a fan looking out from the outside in, really all you got to do is just kind of shell out some money because you're not going to be able to win in the MLB unless you don't spend money because there's no salary cap. You got a lot of good players, and a lot of the players that we have spent money on are not working out. Maeda has not been doing too hot. Javi Baez, obviously, we see his hitting blunders, not super great. It just is a situation right now where it's just like, what do they have to do to kind of turn it around? Because, yeah, still in the start of the season, you're only about 40 games down or so. You're about to be 40 games down, but you still got to make sure at some point you're going to be out of it because you got to start turning around because you can say it's the start of the season. We got a lot of games left, but soon those a lot of games left are going to be turned around to, okay, we're 10 games back from being in a wild card spot. Who's going to be able to get us into a little bit of a groove? And then it's at a point now where it's like, okay, we got to be back and play well. And then you're not going to be able to get there. So the clock is not ticking yet for this season, but it kind of is at the same time because you don't want to get behind the 8 ball too much. And it seems like the Tigers, no matter how hard we want them to be good, are just always behind the 8 ball and just in a bad spot. So that's my rant. Do you have anything else to say, Brandon?
Whoa, whoa. No, I was actually in person on May 12th, seeing Torkelson's first home run of the year. It was a great Mother's Day present for my mom. She enjoyed that, as I had once taken her and my dad to a game at West Michigan where we saw Torque hit 2 nukes. So it came full circle. Then again, it also ended 9-3, but many don't know it was 9-0, and Verlander hit us through about 5 innings. So that was really kind of the story of that game, where Justin Verlander was just an absolute animal. Back to his old days, back on the slab in Comerica. But with this team, we can't talk more enough about hitting than we are right now, because there is just an absolute crazy number of players on this team that have not hit over 250. I'm not going to be the guy that goes up there and says, I could swing the bat better than that. I know for a sure fact that I can't swing that lumber against 100 miles per hour, and I'm not even going to try to. And I don't really want to go there. But right now, this team is absolutely struggling swinging the bat. I don't know if it's we got to go cut down some trees ourselves and send them back over to Louisville so we can get some new bats going and ship them over to Detroit, or whatever it may be. But right now, this team, that's just what it is, man. I feel so bad for Reese Olson. That kid threw an absolute gem on Tuesday and lost a 1-0 ball game. That's cruel. That is absolutely cruel and should not happen. May 15th, Wednesday, we lost 2-0. Our defense and our pitching are getting the job done. The bats are not. So we need something. I don't know if it's a campfire in the dugout, and we need to light these bats up literally with propane in a match. I don't know what it may be, but that's really what this team is missing. And now we're going to probably see, I think AJ Hinch is going to start making moves. We've seen him start to do it a little bit here and there, maybe sending Meadows down, maybe even sending Torkelson down. I think right now he kind of saved himself a little bit with his performances last couple of games, at least for now. But I think with some of these hitters, I'm looking right now at the stats online, and we only have a couple guys that are batting above 240. And that's Kerry Carpenter, Winfield Perez when he's playing. Matt Vierling is in there. Andy Ibanez hasn't played really enough games to really register for that. He's only played 20 so far, but he has played well when he has. But a lot of these everyday guys, Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green, Mark Canna, they're at about 240 or under. And that's just something that we can't have. This team has to have better hitting and better on base percentage in order to score runs, because that's all we're doing wrong. We are pitching well. We are fielding well enough. We just cannot get runs across the plate. And that is what has to change if we're going to be a legitimate playoff team.
Yeah, that's been a really tough problem recently. I also got to say, not a fan of not just because we lost because of it, but not a fan of the starting a runner on second for the extra innings, because I think that just takes away from the game. But hey, to each their own, and MLB just needs to change, but they never will. But we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, I do like what you said, though, Brandon, because pitching recently has just been very good. I mean, you see Foley play pretty well. You've seen Chafin do well too. But I think now is just like, what do you do to get these bats kind of alive a little bit? Because you've seen good stuff from Riley Green. I mean, now it's with Torkelson kind of picking it up a little bit, but yeah, you said it. Who do we send down maybe to get some confidence up? I don't know. I want to see what everybody else has. So shoot us a message on the Daily News Facebook, because just give us your thoughts, because we would love to see what everybody else is thinking. But I don't know, man. Tigers are just at a spot where they gotta get the bats going quick, or else it's just gonna be real quickly. It's gonna fall out of their hands, because now we're what? I'm looking at this. How many games back are we from 5.5 from the top of the Central, which I mean is fine, because the Central is just pretty booty this year. But still, you got to make sure that you got to pick it up a little bit, or else you're just gonna be trying to. I don't know the right analogy to say. I've been trying to stall so I can figure out now. But if you don't pick it up soon, you're going to be sorry for it. So that's as simple as I can say it. As I smoke my knuckle on my computer, that hurt really bad.
Joe is going to be on IL here soon, the 10-day IR. We're going to need a replacement for him, especially the migraine the Tigers are giving you now, apparently. So here's an interesting thing for you, Joe, though, too, and the viewers at home. We know how great Tariq Skubal has been, right? 5-0, 2.02 ERA, and I just looked up the opponent's average at 189. Reese Olson is 0-4 this season with a 2.09 ERA and a .192 opposing batting average. Both have a sub-1 whip. One is 5-0. The other is 0-4. How that makes sense?
That's insane.
I don't know. I am now a Reese Olson fan, because I'm going to get on this kid's team, because he is balling. He does not deserve an 0-4 record. That is cruelty. He is pitching gems. And this kid, really, he knows ball. And we need to start getting on this guy's back batting-wise and start getting him some wins, because he's going to have an amazing season and might go 0-20 at this point, because that is how good he's played, and that is how bad the bats have been when he is on the mound.
Yeah, it's not cool at all. But also, I want to say Alex Faedo doing pretty good too. I mean, 2.73 ERA. I wanted to toss that in there because he was dealing pretty well on the last appearance that he had. So we'll see how it plays out. There's not much more to say about these Tigers, man, other than just get the bats going. I feel like that's going to be our consensus little point at each time that we go on the rundown. And it's going to probably going to get pretty old for these people that are listening to us right now. But, I mean, you can still say it. I mean, we've just been not doing too hot. And I don't know what's got to happen. But we'll see how it plays out. Tigers pitching now. Very good. Love that a lot. So we'll see how it plays out. But we're actually going to go to a game pretty soon, aren't we, Brandon?
We are June 8th. If you are going to Comerica Park and you are a fan of the show, come find us. We'll be around the ballpark somewhere. We're hoping to get some new gear, identifier gear, so you can find us and find all these fancy logos on our shirt.
I didn't even know we were getting that. That's huge. That's like Christmas morning.
Yeah, I think we're still working on it at the moment. If not, we'll just be a couple guys at the ballpark. And if you run into us, say, hey, we'll be glad to talk with you about the show and stuff. But maybe wearing, I don't know, Joe, I might have to cop these new Motor City Tigers jerseys. Some of them look pretty cool, but I don't know about I would say this, the gear.
Have we talked about that last? Did we talk about that last episode?
No, we didn't. I think the gear is better than the jersey. That's, I think, my opinion. I went into the store myself with my parents when I went to that game last Sunday. And some of the gear is actually pretty sweet. I wish there was more orange involved. I think that's my biggest criticism of this uniform. I think I like the concept a little bit. I think it's a little bright. I think the whole concept, I know, Joe, you probably mentioned the dark pants. It's kind of a weird vibe. But I think the gear of and of itself is actually pretty sweet. I might cop a t-shirt or something, but jersey wise, I mean, I'm also not paying $200 for a new jersey because I'm a broke college kid, straight out of college, still in college, working around my college. So I won't be buying a jersey, but there is some pretty cool gear. And I think, man, maybe it's just a fresh start this team needs. Hey, you never know at the end of the day.
Yeah, thought they were gonna do a little bit better of a logo with a hat. Don't like how it just says Detroit. I was kind of hoping that they were gonna go back to
Yeah.
the tiger crawling through the old English D logo, like do something like that, add some orange into it, which would have been sick.
Yes.
But they did not
We
do
need
that.
that.
So I don't know who the Nike execs are that are putting the design team on there, but it's whatever. I guess we'll just deal with that. But also, here's the thing. I wasn't aware of it at the start. I didn't have that first thought, but when I went to the comments on Instagram when Tigers announced it, everybody was like, "So we're just gonna represent like the opponents, like just driving all over us with the with the tire
Yeah.
tracks on it." And I was like, I don't think about that now, but it's just funny because now that's all I think about every time I see it. But the one thing about the City Connect jerseys is a lot of them, I don't think so with ours, but a lot of them look like beer league softball jerseys, if that makes sense. It just, the colorful pants and stuff like that. It just doesn't seem like an MLB team should be wearing them. But, it's whatever, to each their own. But I will say Detroit does not have the worst City Connect. All right, that's going to belong to Boston every time.
Yeah, these teams, I feel like right now with the unis, we're doing a little too much. And that's speaking on behalf of Major League Baseball. The fact that we have pants that rip should be addressed immediately. But these jerseys are a little bit, I think I would agree with you. Some of them are a little over the top and they're a little like you understand the concept of connecting them to the city. The fans wear them with pride. They represent where they're from and their hometown team. But at the same time, it's almost like, when you're watching a game, and yes, I am a runner myself. I totally understand the Boston Marathon connection with these yellow jerseys. I totally get it. And I think it's cool. But the Red Sox, they don't wear yellow, Like, I don't want to just like throw
They're
the,
red and
the whole
blue, dude.
concept
Like it's
away. But like, yeah, we need it. Like, it's hard to identify some of these teams because like they're not wearing those colors. You know what I mean? Like Washington has like the floral. It's like, okay, but they made it look gray. It's kind of, it kind of fades in there. You got some other ones like Arizona's. Those ones are actually kind of sweet. The Serpentines ones, those are pretty sweet. If that is actually their connect, maybe it's just an alternate. I think they got their jerseys pretty well figured out. But a lot of these teams are starting to come out with them, and it just kind of seems like they're just a little bit out there. It's almost kind of like an NBA copycat where we're getting a little bit too far off chart. But it seems like the NFL, those guys got it figured out. So whatever they're doing, we should hire some of those guys over for MLB and NBA. But don't get me wrong, I love the creativity. I love that we're thinking outside the box, connecting these themes. But at the end of the day, if a team is confused or if fans are confused how to cheer on their team when they can't recognize them, isn't that kind of a day one problem?
Yeah, it's not the. I feel like they didn't really think that through, to be honest with you. I don't know how many people were baseball fans that are in that design room, but a lot of complaining. That's fine. That's what we do, and it's all right. So we'll see how it plays out. But I think that's it for this episode. Good one, I would say so. Had fun talking to you, Brandon, and just divulging everything that's going on around the area and with Detroit sports. So, anything else to add?
Yes, of course. Before we go, we have to thank our friends at Michigan ADAS for making this possible. They do absolutely great work on every make and model. Be sure to check them out. Great sponsor for us, and especially moving forward, we're really lucky to have them. We're going to do a lot of great things, as Joe alluded to earlier on in the episode. We got some great things planned, and we're already thinking ahead for football season. Not that we're going to wait and implement them in the football season, but we're going to start making maybe some gradual changes. One big change might be in the works, and let's just say if it goes through, that we might take this thing to the next level. But we're still in the works on it. We're still having meetings about it, getting some new gear. And if that happens, man, you guys are going to be in for a treat because me, Joe, and the whole staff get full creative power. And let me tell you, we're going to make this show as grand as it absolutely possibly can be. And boy, if it does, we're going to have to sell merch, Joe. So we can design our own stuff maybe. Well, I might have to
I'm
talk to
really,
your kid about
it
that.
is gonna be sick, dude. This is gonna be a lot of fun, and we can't wait to bring it to you and make this show that much better. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week. See ya.